Hello, everyone, and welcome to Stronger Together, a CW Supergirl fan podcast. My name's Snowy.
And I'm Nick.
Today, we are going to be talking about episode 7 entitled Human for a Day. Supergirl, with her recently drained powers, taking too long to return, must deal with life without them, while the DEO has a powerful escaped alien prisoner in their headquarters.
Last episode, we said it ended in a good cliffhanger for the start of this episode, which actually starts with an Allura voiceover instead of Kara's. The hologram explains that she basically strained herself using her heat vision fighting Red Tornado, and we also see Didio and Alex examining Kara being actually vulnerable to needles and such, and it's pretty much implied that they have been examining her the entire weekend, but now Kara has to face the actual real world without her powers for the first time. At this point in the show ever, we get a little retcon later in the show, but it was interesting to see how affected she was.
Yeah, this opening, I think, really brought that home, like how much she was affected. I think it was actually a really, like you said, interesting choice to have like Allura doing the voiceover. And I think it was also really smart because I think the viewer is then able to focus on like Kara's, I guess, reaction through like her eyes, her face, her body language because she's not doing the voiceover. I think it allows the viewer to be more focused on that. And I don't know, all of like the shots of her being tested and things like that. It was just a really interesting, nice opening. And then we got another sort of showcase for the sun lamps.
It was interesting also to see how worried Alex was, because at this point in the narrative of the show, Alex also doesn't entirely trust the DEO,
Yeah.
but also like this is the safest place that they could have been in this weekend without Kara having powers, the vulnerability, and now that she has quote unquote enemies.
Yeah, yeah. And I think they also utilize this opening well when like Car's finally getting ready to leave the DEO. They take this time to remind the viewer that neither of them trusts Hank at this point, right?
Correct.
Because they found out what Winn told them about Jeremiah. So it's like reinforcing for the viewer, yes, she's in the DEO and it's safe, but it isn't because who the hell is Hank, right? And what is he in relation to Jeremiah?
What did he do?
Yeah, what did he do?
Then Kara apparently goes to Catco in a pause and she found herself with a kid who has a cold, which she immediately catch because she has the immunity system of a newborn. So we have this funny scene with Kat making it a big deal if someone on her bullpen is sick. Kat being completely dramatic, like she's basically saying that the world will collapse if she gets sick. And then Kara sneezes again and Kat goes,
Hmm.
Kira, the best thing about you is that you'd never get sick. And Kara is so offended.
But the seriousness in cats,
Of
she's
course.
just like, what's going
But
on?
it is
My
funny
world
that
got
that is
tilted.
that is something that she
Oh,
remembers, given that she's supposedly like so aloof and so like out of touch with everyone else. But she noticed that Kara never gets sick, which I think will maybe be one of the reasons why moving forward
hmm,
she has some suspicions about Kara.
yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. Also, cat is smart. Like, I
Exactly.
guess. And that's something that'll
Exactly.
come back later on with another character, I think, particularly in the fandom space. But it's, yeah, you know,
Well, because she's sick, Kat dismisses her because again, if Kat gets sick, the universe will collapse.
yeah.
So Kat dismisses Kara, and Kara, is going quote unquote home, and she bumps into James, and James is like, "Hey, are you okay?" And she's like, "No, I lost my powers fighting Red Tornado," and James is like, "Ah, you saw a flare," and like, then he explains that Superman calls that situation solar flaring, and he says like something like, "Oh, he like his names like Hit Vision, Free Spread," and Kara's like, "Yeah, like a nerd," which is ironic because Kara, darling, you are a nerd.
She's such a nerd. She's such a nerd.
Like she cannot help it. Then James reveals that he's actually looking for apartments because him and Lucy are moving in together. Since last episode, Lucy quit her job with her dad. Their relationship is moving forward.
Poor Kara.
Exactly. But, again, is that I don't know if call it like ignorance on James Bars or the fact that he doesn't want to see that because again he is in a relationship, but he is not leading Kara astray. He's not like
He's not giving her, like, hope that maybe something will
yeah,
happen or anything like that.
like
I think
yes,
he's just being, like, a good sort of friend coworker
friend,
slash starting
yes,
to become a friend. Yeah.
yeah. It is not like something malicious on his part. At least that is not my impression. It has
Same,
never
same.
been, and it's not happening in this rewatch that we are doing for the podcast. But then, as they are walking, an earthquake strikes National City, and seems to be a big one. In that earthquake, a car is heading towards Kara and James, and he pushes her out of the way. But when she falls, she breaks her arm.
Yeah.
He helps her by using his jacket as a makeshift sling. Kara is very distressed at the fact that she doesn't have her powers to help.
I think it makes sense in this scene that she just feels very sort of morose and let down. It's kind of like she feels she can't do anything. And also she doesn't have her powers, which also must suck, and she's also in pain. I do think it's kind of nice in this scene that James was so quick to be able to do like some first aid though.
Yes, but something that I hadn't mentioned before is that, in the meantime between Kara going to her job and Alex staying in the DEO, Alex is at the DEO where that day they had planned to make some maintenance in a cell of the alien Gem, who is a ferocious escapee and has psychic powers. His cells prevents him to use those power in the agents, and manipulate them. But when the earthquake hits, in the maintenance procedure, he escapes the cell. So Jem is the quote unquote villain of the week. But it is interesting because he's one of the few villains of the season that had nothing to do with Kara. But
The
yeah, in the
makeup's
in
great too on
yes,
on the
the
actor. Like the prosthetics and everything they did on the actor were great.
the prosthetics were fantastic. You can literally tell that is not a human. Like he's not
Mhm.
an alien that could have, hidden for however many years because he doesn't look human. That is something that I do like about this season that the aliens are not pretty much never like uh 100% passing as humans. I do
Mhm.
like he's imposing a stature as well. Like he's a
Mhm.
tall man. Whoever the actor was, he was a very tall man, and the use of the prosthetics was really well done in this episode.
I do think the
Then
actor is also like very menacing, which I think this
yes,
plot line really needed. Like this guest star did a good job, I think, with this role.
and it's difficult to portray with that amount of aesthetic that with
Yeah.
prosthetics. So it was a really nicely done job on his part. Back on Catco, we get Kara and James return to Catco, and Kat is like she comes out of her office and she's like, I understand that when things like this happen, you want to be with your family. So if you want to go, go. But what I found funny was the fact that whoever was leaving, she was filming it like, oh, I'm taking
Yeah.
note of this. I'm taking note of this. Like, Kat's charm, I guess.
One of the other things I noticed right at the start of this scene when like Kat comes out of her office and asks if anyone's hurt, if you're looking at like the side of the screen, like Kara is there like holding her arm in pain, and
Mhm.
like Kat never even sees it.
No, she doesn't acknowledge Kara at all, which is funny because she let her go because she was quote unquote sick. That being said, Kara doesn't really have a cold the rest of the episode. It was just for that one funny scene. I don't know if it was just because her powers were slowly coming back, but it's never said explicitly on the episode.
Yeah, that's what I like to think.
The first thing that Kat says, though, is that they need to get Calico, quote unquote, back online. Some made where the plot needed to be. In this case, they needed to be a broadcast, so Cass needs the broadcast back online. So she goes directly to the guy responsible for that and demands it to be solved in classic
Mhm,
Cat
mhm.
fashion.
I like the sentiment that she was like, "We have to do our job, like, our
Yes.
job is to help keep people informed." And I
Yeah,
so
Kat is this character that she doesn't seem like she cares about much stuff, but she always comes through, and that is the reason why Kara, both as Kara Danvers and as Supergirl, sees her as a mentor, and that is
Mhm.
something that it will play out in this episode. After that, Winn manages to actually get the broadcast stuff up, or at least to get like some information. And I find it very funny that Kat is very confused about what a Winn is. She has no idea who that man is, even though he sits right in front of her office. She calls him weak, and Winn is like close enough and carries on. But yes, she recruits him to actually get like an actual broadcast with her talking to the public.
I will say, in terms of Win, this is the type
Mhm.
of storyline I wish they'd focused on rather than some other things with him. Like him being this nerd who slowly gets recognized by Kat as actually I just wanted to say like this particular aspect of Win I think is where the character sort of worked the best in the show for me. The funny
Yeah,
guy who's like the capable nerd. Like this is the aspect of Win that I think worked the best for me in the show.
yeah. For me, the comedic aspect of his character works better than when they try to make him the other romantic lead. For me, Win works when he is more the friend or the tech guy, but he was so bitter about Kara not having feelings for him that it actually kind of ruined the character for
Mm-hmm.
me because he became one dimensional. But in this scene, he's the type of Win that
Mm-hmm.
I can appreciate. In the meantime, because there is an earthquake, there is like public distress. Max is doing whatever Max does, and he's taking advantage of the situation. He's like, we don't need Supergirl. We can help each other. And, this rhetoric that he has, that we don't need Supergirl to help us in any case. But at the same time, he's like publishing himself, like he's giving away water, but the water is branded with his name and his company, and he's
Mm-hmm.
like in place giving blankets or where he takes time to take pictures, which is the double messaging and the double standards that he has.
I think for this scene, I will say separating it from him because I think he is very doing sort of that double-edged, oh, I'm, tearing something down when I'm sort of also pushing my brand out there by quote unquote doing good things or whatever. As I think he has at least a valid point in that I think it is true that a single superhero literally can't be everywhere at once. Like that is very true. And I think that's something that all superheroes have to learn at some point. They have to find this balance. But the way he presents it, it's that smarmy, oh, and I'm pushing all of my branded stuff and doing PR photos BS. I That aspect is just meh, smarmy. I can't think of another word, but the kernel of truth there I think is there. Doesn't he also take a pot shot at Supergirl in the longer part of this conversation where he's like, "Oh, I can already know she's not healing as fast as Superman." And I
Yeah,
was like,
when James
"Excuse you, sir?"
James and Kara go confront him about this. Well, Kara is, she's trying. This season in particular, she's trying to prove herself in the sense that,
Mhm.
every time someone says something slightly negative about her as Supergirl, she goes immediately into Kara Danvers mode and try to fix the situation, like change the opinion of this person. So she goes with this mentality towards Max, and Max is like, yeah, she should be thanking me that I'm not telling people what I know. And he immediately tells, like, yeah, she busted her powers fighting the drone last week, and she still hasn't regained them. And at this point, she should have, because the data that we have from Superman, he had recovered at the same time. So she's like, the episode is already painting again inside the universe. They are painting Supergirl as lesser than Superman.
Mhm.
But what I like about this scene, and I think is very pivotal scene inside the episode, is while Max and James and Carl are talking, someone else comes in and says that they need help, that
Mhm.
her parent was in like at a car crash and because of the earthquake, and her dad cannot move, and they go and help, and it seems to be a very serious injury. Max says that is basically like a lost cause. Kara gets desperate and tries to help. She tries to force her X-ray vision to work, to the point that James have to be like, Kara, stop. The person is pretty much it dies in the scene, and Kara is extremely affected by it.
Yeah, the acting in this moment when they're trying to help um the dad who basically is about to pass away, I thought was just so good on both McCad and Melissa's part. Um like there's this contrast in their energies is, like Car's extremely desperate and intense and she's trying so hard and she just nothing's working. Her powers aren't working at least. It's not that her heart's in it, but her powers aren't working. And I just love I think what I notice about this scene, I think James is more quietly intense, but he's just so gentle with how he speaks to Kara in this scene, and it really struck me this time when I watched it. Um, like even the way he reached out to like touch her arm, he was extremely gentle.
Yeah, I did like what was happening between Kara and James. This scene has a weird pace to me. And it is more than the acting is actually like the dialogue inside the scene, and it has nothing to do with James and Kara. Actually, it's more the dialogue that the actress that was the daughter had with Max. Because
Mm-hmm.
yes, I know, as some we are doing this analysis of the episodes, right? I know, intellectually, I know that is because they are doing exposition as to why humans shouldn't, like, lean in into the super, like you said, the superheroes of it all. Like, it shouldn't be. But the dialogue is clunky. Like, the actress, the characters is like, yeah, I saw in the news that Supergirl like flew someone for the to the hospital. And Max is like, yeah, if you can find her, go ahead. Like, I understand what they were saying, but I don't know, the pacing, and it seems clunky to me more
Mm-hmm.
than the acting itself. Also, I found like the entire Max was saying like things like, medical stuff,
Mm-hmm.
about the 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 dad in the middle of the street. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't seem urgent in the dialogue that the guy is dying. He's just saying words to me. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
I found the pacing of this scene a little bit rough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the acting was great. Then we got to the Dio where everything is a disaster because of Jem. He's an extremely powerful alien that can, one, read minds, and two, control people, even if they are
Mm-hmm.
in contact just for a brief period of time. The Dio has some inhibitors, so that doesn't happen, but they
Mm-hmm.
only have like three. Alex is already in this place where she doesn't trust Hank, and Hank, because he trusts her, wants to leave her like in command rather than for her to go with him and
Mm-hmm.
distract him. And Alex gets extremely defensive. Hank goes and tries to find and recapture Jem. Alex stays in the command center they secluded themselves in, where previously the hologram of
Yeah.
Allura briefed them about Jem, his powers, and how dangerous he was. But Alex continues to be extremely suspicious of Hank, especially because they are having problems keeping in contact with him and distract him.
Yeah, I like that both of these A plot, B plot in this episode are actually both very intense
Yes.
stories, actually. Like the emotions are very high in both of these stories. So I think that cross cuts really well in the sense that if we'd been going from the Kara plot line of Human for a day, which is emotionally very intense, to
Mhm.
then a plot line that isn't, I think it would have like cut the episode down more. And
Mhm.
I like that they found something that worked for Alex and Hank that was emotionally intense as well and storyline intense, like kind of thing, because they're like on lockdown in the
Yes.
DEO. Because I think Alex called Kara and was like, "We're on lockdown. Take care of yourself," etc. And oh, I think the other thing, I don't know if it's for sure, but the room they're in when they're talking to Allura, I think it's the room they made for Kara that only Kara should be able to get into.
I
So
noticed that as well.
I'm like, I know I shouldn't nitpick, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is the room that you said only Kara can go in. Okay, but whatever.
Yeah, I noticed that as well, but I'm assuming a lot of things, but I assume that it was literally because Alex was the one that set it up with Hank's
Probably.
help. So
Probably.
they are
They probably
both
have an
like,
override somewhere.
exactly, exactly. Like, again, like you said, like nitpicking the episode, But if
Yeah.
those things that they never really address, so you have to take your own conclusions. But yes, I did also notice that. We got back to this scene. Well, not the scene of the aftermath of accident, and you can see that Kara is extremely distraught. She has still like the blood of the guy that died on her hands, and I did like this conversation that she had with James because it goes back to something that Allura said to Kara and that Alex agreed. It is that Kara has always had the heart of a hero,
Hmm.
and that James says that as humans we don't need like superpowers to be heroes, to do the right thing. And I think that is something that goes with that Kara quote unquote learns, like, the hero's journey. That even though she herself sees, because she sees her powers as an obligation almost in this scene, for me at least, I think she feels like she owes something for the fact that she survived Krypton. So I think she
Hmm.
had been fighting for so long to belong, and she felt in the last few weeks that she revealed herself as Supergirl that she was doing something to earn, the quote unquote right to have been a survivor of her planet exploding.
Hmm.
But I do like this conversation that she has with James here.
I agree with your thoughts, and I'm going to add on some of mine. It's probably me getting a little in the weeds because I think about Kara a lot as a character, but I think watching it this time, I do think it's correct. I think that like we say like I agree with you. This reminded me of that whole you've always had the heart of a hero, but I think part of Kara's journey is I'm not sure that she feels that she does. And that is often the part of the hero's journey, right? It's that the hero never thinks they're a hero. Alls they see are their own flaws and their own mistakes and their own weaknesses. And in
Yeah.
some ways, I think at this point in particular, I guess all of season one in particular, till we get towards the end, I think Kara's always questioning, should I have saved that plane? Should I have come out into the open at all? Because I have already been given the gift of my life not ending, and I was given the gift of people protecting me on this planet so I wouldn't be taken by an evil organization. Let's just be real, the DEO is kind of evil. And I think these are things that are always kind of swirling inside of her, but I think mixed into that is I think it's like it's pulling against this nature she has that she doesn't realize she has, that she does have the heart of a hero. I think it's also pulling against this nature she has of on her planet it's people are community, right? Stronger together as you pull your weight. You do what you can and you always help and you always are trying to help build and sustain the community. And I suspect like part of what she's struggling with is she kind of found that, but in some ways I think inside herself she thinks she's almost not worthy as much as she feels she should be doing this. Like she doesn't see herself as the heir of the House of L, which is how I see her. I think she is the true heir of the House of L because she lived on Krypton, and I think she is at this point, particularly in I would say the first half of season one, where I don't think she feels any of that internally. It's all too new, it's all too fresh, it's all too I guess intense, and it's all mixed up in her head, and which makes sense, right? Because she spent part of her childhood on Earth hiding who she is. She spent half of it on Krypton. She never gets to talk about it. So I think this scene I don't know. For me, this time, I thought a lot about these things, like watching this scene again, how she really is kind of struggling, I guess, to see it.
It is never said textually in the show, but it is very clear to me that Kara has survivor's guilt.
Yes.
And in this scene, she feels like she's failing this mission that she gave herself to justify the fact that she survived Krypton. But I think it
Yeah.
has a lot to do with the fact that she quote unquote failed her mission to take care of Kal-El. Because remember, like her prime directive when she left Krypton was to take care of her baby cousin. And when she finally got to Earth, there was no baby cousin. She was the baby
Mhm,
cousin. And
mhm.
then he left her with a family that she had no connection and didn't know. So it was like very much, she had to get used to that and be like, new on a new planet. But this, I think Kara sees, at least in this aspect, like in this moment in time, she sees her superhero journey as atoning for not being able to get that prime directive done
Yes.
to accomplish her mission. And
Like, she's
this is
trying to accept she has a new one, but she's not quite
yes,
there yet.
but she's also like putting her value as a being in the fact that she has these powers and all the things that she can do with those powers. And as much as I don't agree with, how they portray this quote unquote message past this season, it is all something that she quote unquote learns along the entire show. I have to nitpick this show in the sense that I do understand what they were trying to say. I just think that the way they went about it was freaking stupid.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I agree. I agree.
Yes, but yes, I do like this scene. This scene feels very much like the steps that Kara has to take to become that hero that she wants to be. Because let's be real, she's like what 6 weeks into being a superhero, and she thinks
Mhm.
like she's at the same level. But also, like, I understand her frustration because everyone keeps comparing her to Superman,
Who
and
wouldn't be frustrated that it's like, "Give me some breathing
exactly,
room, please."
exactly. But they intercut that scene of Cora with what's happening at Catco with Quid and Cat. Winn gets a pep talk from Cat, if you can even consider it one, and he manages to get the broadcast back on. But then, like, back in the street, Cora sees and Jimmy see, like, that there is going to be a robbery on a corner store. And obviously, Kara and being like her impulsive self, even though, you know, that is one of the quote unquote flaws of Kara, how impulsive she is. Obviously, she wants to help and she's like right in the dumps because she's feeling very deeply about the death of the father in the previous scene. So she goes in and James is desperate. Like, you have no powers right now. You are not bulletproof at this moment.
Mhm.
Be- don't do something stupid. And Kara goes, yes, Kara, I will do this. So
She's
she
like, "They
goes,
don't know I'm not bulletproof. Who
yes,
cares?"
yes, yes. Risky business, but yes, she goes in as
I love
Supergirl
her so much.
in the corner store, and the would-be robbers are like pointing a gun at the owner. And this is my favorite scene of the episode because this is literally like what we were saying. Like, this is the scenes that prove that Kara has the heart of a hero.
Which James was also in his own way trying to tell her, like, "You don't need the powers to be a hero. You
Exactly.
are a hero regardless of that." And, oh,
Because you don't give up. That is the
yeah.
thing. Uh,
As much as her impulsiveness is a flaw, she also, like, I think I had a note somewhere, like, she won't be stopped. She
yes.
won't back down, and that is one of the reasons she is a hero. It is part of that makeup.
Yeah, exactly. She gives an amazing speech about choosing to do good and having hope in doing the right thing, which gives you the context that she was listening to James. And, she pulls from her own experience. Like, I'm sure that she sees Alex as a hero on her own. But as she's saying all this, she extends her good arm to the robber to give her the gun. And I love that you can see her other hand, like, trembling because of the pain. What I like about this scene, besides showing that Kara can be a hero without even the powers, is the speech that Kara gives, is the editing, is the music, the intercutting between Kara's speech and Kat's, which is to give hope to National City, to calm people down, because they were in a state of panic. I will mention that we get the name drop of one of the future episodes when they mention Better Angels. I also really like that
Yeah.
James is in all this with Kara, and his first instinct is to take a picture while the music keeps swelling. It's a
Mhm.
fantastic scene, and it's like the scene of the episode for me.
I have to agree. I don't even know how to talk about this scene. Like, this encompasses so much of, like, who Kara is, what kind of hero she is. Again, I guess it's a continuation of what we'd already talked about in some other episodes. Here's yet another example of her instinct is, well, A, she won't be stopped. B, she won't be stopped, and all she's trying to do is show compassion. It's not even that she wants to go fight something or whatever, it's that she wants to go help. And again, it's like this season, weirdly rewatching it for this podcast, is they do this like very beautiful, subtle progression of just emphasizing her compassion and the way that she wants to help. And I think that's extremely important for this particular superhero. I think one of my favorite little things in this scene is, we as the viewer know that Kara doesn't have her powers at this moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the way that they show it, her hand is just shaking. The hand that she's trying to hide, the broken arm, and like her whole forearm and hand is just shaking, and she's trying to hide it in the super suit. There's just something really, I don't know, poetic about it when you're looking at it. And I do like that she says, we are who we choose who you want to be. Like we each can choose who we want to be. It reminded me of the line from the Iron Giant, "You are who you choose to be." And I think that's really important. I think the other thing that I love about um, this sequence is like right at the end. She doesn't break eye contact with the robber
Mm-hmm.
when he lets go of the gun. I think the other thing about the scene, and it's maybe subtle or maybe small, but the fact that she never breaks eye contact with him, even at the end. All she does at the very end is she gives him like the smallest, kindest smile when she has the gun in her hand. And also just James seeing this and his reaction was also just great. And like you said, the music here is also great. I do, and all the cross cutting with Kat, I agree. I do think this is like the scene of the episode.
Yeah, this is a scene I think that is fundamental to who Kara will become as a hero. I think this is one of the first that evoke or illustrate what will become her motto along the series, like, the hope,
Mhm.
help, and compassion for all. So this is a scene that is pivotal to who Kara is as a hero, I think.
Mhm.
Because it does show that she, like we said, she doesn't need her powers to be a hero and a good person, but the fact that she does have them makes it easier
Mhm.
to portray that heroic aspects. Like if she has her powers, she doesn't need to worry, about bullets. But it is one of those scenes that stays with you. And again, I'm someone who doesn't really watch this season as frequently because it is somewhat painful to see how much the show changes between this season and the rest. uh, to the point that it does feel sometimes like a completely different show. But there are a few episodes that I always think about. And even though in this episode, quote unquote, not much happened, it is an excellent study for Kara as a character. And this is one of the episodes that I think work well for Kara as a character because she hasn't always had the powers, but there was a time that she didn't have. But it's been so long that
Mhm.
she doesn't remember how it felt to be quote unquote human or how it was to be Kryptonian on Krypton without her powers. She's so used to her powers that she doesn't know how to react. And obviously, now you add the layer of the fact that she sees herself as Supergirl more than Kara at this point in time. So
Mhm.
it is a good study for it.
I don't know. I Another thing I wrote down about this scene, and I wrote it down in all caps, was because I do think this scene really does an excellent job of showcasing who this particular superhero is in all caps. I wrote down, "That's my Supergirl. She makes you believe, and like in yourself or in whatever you want to believe in." But I don't know. It's just a great scene.
Kara and James go back to Catco. They go to print the picture that James took, and Kara says that it's her favorite picture of herself as Supergirl, even though she has seen like a lot in the last few weeks. And she's like praising James as a photographer. James as a Pulitzer as a photojournalist at this point. And then we get a little of James's backstory. He says that the first pictures that he took was of his dad when he gave him a camera before he went to the Gulf War. which was in the early 90s, right? And then that his dad never came back. And he shows the picture to Kara. We never see it as an audience, but it is a very touching scene between them.
You feel the connection between them, I think, in this scene. There's like a very easy connectivity between them. I think like he feels so comfortable talking about this big thing with her and having this moment. I think she says, "Oh, and you look like him," and his reaction is just very emotional. Like, "Oh, I'm like, because I imagine I get the impression when he was saying this, I got the impression he doesn't talk about his dad very much because he did lose him. So,
Yeah, that is the impression that I get. And again, I it's something that I mentioned in the last episode. It is like at this point in time, I can understand why you're building up the relationship between Kara and James as romantic. They do have like you said, that connection. They both lost their parent, and there is a loss that in this show they presented as something that is not common, even though like everyone in the circle has lost their parent. It is, and I think maybe that is the reason why they are friends, why they are connected. So yeah, it is like in this point in time, I can understand why you're building up James and Kara as a couple, because you're doing that. You're doing the block by block building of them becoming a couple.
they're connecting as people. And I don't know, I'm trying to like think of how I mean that. Like it doesn't feel like they're just doing this as sort of here are two characters who must, who are going to be in a relationship. I think I genuinely do feel them connecting as people. And then yes, I get that you're probably building this to something romantic, but at the same time I think they do genuinely connect as people.
They
Like
do
they can
connect as
talk to
people.
each other. So,
They do connect as people. They talk to each other. However, they are definitely building as a couple,
oh
because
yeah.
the
Yeah.
immediately scene that comes in, what happens? What happens? Winds come in the moment that James and Cara are hugging. And of course, he thinks that something else is happening. And this is one of the scenes that makes me hate Winn with a passion. Because previously he has
Um,
told Cara that he was going to, look into the DEO files and figure out what was actually happening to her and why she hadn't gotten her powers back, and how, speed that situation. So he comes with that information to give to Kara, but
interrupting at that perfect moment where it almost feels like James and Carr are doing something inappropriate when they're
exactly.
actually not. Like the actual weird energy when he walks in the room.
Oh, I felt like a full body cringe seeing
Yeah,
him
yeah, 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 yeah.
come in
Yeah.
into
Oh.
the, and it had nothing to do with James and Kara. Honestly, it had everything to do with Winn and his reaction. And this
Mhm.
is one of the reasons why I'm sorry, show, you will never make me like Winn, besides maybe like the comedic relief in some scenes, because most of the scenes I find him a little too heavy handed. And I don't think it's the acting, because I think Jeremy Jordan is a really good actor, but I cannot understand Winn, honestly. He gets into this speech telling Kara how she will never get the guy because James is with Lucy, and how dare she have this connection with James. It makes me mad all over again.
I literally wrote, and again, I agree. I think Jeremy Jordan is actually an excellent actor,
Mhm.
and I've already said there are certain things about when I do like. I really don't like how he is in from this scene forward in this episode. I do not like how
Yeah,
he is.
I agree.
Like
I
in
agree.
this episode, like he's terrible. The what he says is awful. I literally wrote down "Win is an ass" in all caps for this scene. Like that is what this scene is. It's him being an ass. Also, they use the language and the way he talks about her. It's the stereotype of a man who put a woman on a pedestal, and the woman must be perfect and she can never do anything wrong. I'm not saying Cara did anything wrong because I don't think Cara and James did do anything wrong. They
Hmm.
genuinely had a moment where they had a conversation where they connected. I think it made sense that they hugged. Like cuz it was a very sort of um it's
Emotional.
sort of emotional scene, so it made sense. Like, and I'm just like, it was really Wynn's reaction and him being a dick about it, and then putting her on some pedestal that she has to be perfect and she can't have anything in her life other than being like a superhero.
But the thing
I
is that that is not the point. The point is not that he put her in a pedestal. It is that she's not interested in him. If he
well,
was
yeah, 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 yeah. That's
the
why he's
one,
really mad.
Yes, if he was the one being hugged by Kara, he will be over the moon. But because he's jealous of James, and
Mhm.
let's be real, the reason why he put her in this pedestal is because he wanted to get into her pants.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. It was just like, ugh.
But even if you take away his physical reaction, listen to what he's saying to her. He's basically telling her she's a bad person for having feelings for James and that she will never get the guy because the hero basically never gets the love interest, which is almost universally not true. But it's all because he's in this case not the one that she's interested in and he's jealous. So, what an
Mhm.
asshole.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, nasty jealous. But yeah, this scene, I guess from the Win part of it forward, I have to say watching it this time, I honestly felt so uncomfortable and I was also angry. I was like, cuz everything he was saying, I was like, what is this? Why is this here?
You know why it's there. But uh,
I know why it's there, but
I don't have to like it. I This show tried so hard to make me like Win, and I guess he works for some people. And spoilers, I think, is an actual upgrade whenever we get rid of him. In the sense that the person that replaces his role in the show, I think, is vastly superior to him. But alas,
Mhm.
back at the DO, we have been fighting with Gem, right? We
Yes.
have a scene with Hank and the two agents trying to capture Gem. Those two agents die because James gets into their head, but Hank returns to the room where the rest of the DEO agents are sequestered, and he tells Alex and everyone
Mhm.
else that the inhibitors broke when Jem killed the other two agents. But Alex is in this mindset that she doesn't trust Hank because of the Jeremiah thing, and
Mhm.
he can confirm what he says because they lost the cameras outside the room, and she doesn't trust
Mhm.
him at all in this
Her
episode.
hackles are up like this whole episode with him.
Yes, they in the episode they focus on another agent, Agent Donovan, that he is like some third person in command with
Mhm.
Alex, and she tells Agent Donovan that it's not the first time that Hank has gone on a mission and he's the only survivor. So it is implied that this also makes like Agent Donovan be like a little bit more suspicious of Hank. At this point, both Donovan and Alex try to go out and get Jem, being suspicious of Hank, but they find the bodies of
Mhm.
the agents that died. More importantly, they find that the inhibitors are in perfect condition and that Hank actually lied about them being broken. Alex puts her inhibitor on, but the other agent doesn't, and he gets mind control by Jem. Agent
Mhm.
Donovan and Alex get separated. Alex finds Hank, and they get in a very tense scene with Alex pointing a rifle at Hank because, again, she doesn't trust him. And at
Mhm.
this point, she has evidence that he lied about the inhibitors being broken. Donovan contacts Alex and tries to get a rendezvous, but Hank calls out the bluff and he says that he knows Jem. He doesn't deny it and makes a threat about not only like escaping himself but also releasing all the other prisoners the EO has in custody. Alex makes Han handcuff himself to some pipes in the room and contacts Jem to make the rendezvous and telling him that she will let him go. She steers him to the main DO deck where they have all the scenes previously, and she does prepare like a trap where she's hidden weapons and such. She surprises James, but he's basically unstoppable. Bullets do nothing to him, except when Alex shoots like the gem is in his
Mhm.
forehead.
Mhm. Go Alex.
Exactly. But the gem seems to be the source of his telepathic powers. His source of retreats, but he's still very physically
Mhm.
strong, and he overpowers Alex. I will say I
Yeah.
love to see Alex being a badass. She's very competent and she jumps up and down. Like she planned the
Mhm.
ambush really, really well. She hid weapons where
Mhm.
she knew she could easily get to. But Jem is like so physically imposing that she gets caught. And I love the
Mhm.
editing of this scene because it is seemingly from Alex's POV and she's disoriented because she got hit.
Yes.
So this is the first time that we
Mhm.
actually kinda see John, but we only see glimpses of him because again it is
Mhm.
from the disoriented point of view of Alex. We only see that Jem is defeated.
I will say the sequence where it's Alex against Jem, one of the things I really did love is My God, how beautiful is this DEO set? And they
Yes.
finally got to show it off
Yes.
from like every angle because of this fight scene.
Mhm.
And I just love that they got to show it off because I've always liked this particular DEO set. And I think this is the first time at this point where we really got to see so much of this particular room.
Mhm.
And I just like that they utilized it all and they let Alex like I love that you really feel, and this is, I think, a testament to like the actors and everything and all of the camera work. You can tell that Alex like knows where everything is, like you were saying.
Yes.
Like she's very comfortable in this space, and you can feel that in the performance and in the scene.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the first time that we see the set from completely 360, and they
Hmm.
also use like an upper level. So it is an excellent use of the space that they had available and that we as an audience know that exists. Back at Catco, there is another aftershock from the
Mm.
earthquake, and they say that it's probably actually like the gas lines on the building, and Winn calls quote unquote upstairs, and there are like employees stuck there, right? James goes and check on the stairs. He realizes that the stairs are blocked, and then Carl's like, "Okay, we can use the elevator shaft to get there." And obviously,
Smart cookie, I love her.
again, my girl is very intelligent. James opens the elevator door, and he's like, "Okay, they are stuck up there. They cannot open the thing." He climbs because obviously Kara has a broken arm.
Hmm.
He opens the elevator shaft in the floor that the people are trapped, and he starts helping people go down. But
Hmm.
there is another aftershock, and he like loses his balance and he starts to fall. Previously, in the scene that we hated of Winn, calling Kara out, he mentioned that she needs like an adrenaline pump to get her
Hmm.
powers back, and it is in these moments that she gets scared enough of James falling to his death that she gets her powers back. She
Hmm.
rescues him. They have this quote unquote funny and endearing scene between all three of them, Winn, James, and Kara, about how Kara gave Winn a heart attack.
Her floating in the elevator was great. Also, can I say, James, damsel in distress, I love you so much.
Yes, yes.
Like, full stop, loved it.
Immediately after she gets her powers, she goes into hero mode. And yes, she rescues the people at Catco, but she immediately goes out to help people in the city. She puts out a fire. She the first thing that she does actually is like rescuing a school bus that was in a broken bridge. And the thing that I wanted to mention is that I do always remember that when they were filming this scene, that is a very microscopical scene. It's like less than 30 seconds. They were
Mhm.
filming it on Melissa's birthday.
Yes, they were, and I think they sang the kids sang happy birthday to
They
her on the
did.
bus.
They did.
I th I think the thing I love about this particular moment, because this is such a small moment, like, in the scope of the show and in the scope of this episode, this bus save is very small.
Yes.
Uh, but I have to say the smile on her face when those kids are just, like, excited and happy and they're feeling safe because they got saved, like, what a superhero moment. And, I think this is, like, this is where you feel like this is why her powers, like, she can just do so much more. I don't know, I love the energy here, in this sequence that they gave her.
Yeah, it is a montage, a sequence of her basically putting small fires. They managed to sneak a scene of Max looking at her disapprovingly because he thinks the city over relies on Supergirl. But it's basically a sequence that says
Mhm.
crisis averted. Supergirl saves the day. But I think the second most important scene of this episode is actually what happens back at the DEO. And
Yes.
it is basically, they are like putting out fires as well in the big scope of the DEO, making sure that everyone is in their cells and that Gem is contained. But you can see like Hank going to a room alone and Alex follows him. And Hank is like, "You are asking yourself how I got myself out of the cuffs." And Alex is like, "Yeah, for starters." And she says that she knows that he was the last person to see Jeremiah alive. And she's like, "I didn't even know that my dad worked for the DEO." He actually explains what happens. He says that
Mhm.
Hank Henshaw and Jeremiah Danvers were following a lead of an alien that was in South America and that they went there to kill him. And Alex is like, my dad will never accept that. Hank is like,
Yeah.
that is correct. Your father was a good man, and he realized there that the alien wasn't a threat. He was just a refugee, just like your sister, and he tried to help. And Hank Henshaw died, and Alex asked that if he is the alien in question, and he says that yes. And Alex asked how, because he looks like Hank, and he says that he is a shapeshifter, and he reveals that his name is John and he is the last of the Martians, and he reveals his actual appearance, and it's the first time
Mhm.
that we have the full effect of John Martian Manhunter. I do like the effects. They are fantastic.
Mhm.
And you can see the textures. Like, they did a lot of work in the modeling of John for the show. We lose a little bit of the
Absolutely.
effects in future seasons. But in this instance, the model looks fantastic. The only thing that I don't like is the angle that they shot him in. I always found it a little bit
Yeah.
clunky. Like,
Yeah.
it's too low but too close to him. I always
Yeah, yeah,
found
yeah.
it a
It's a
little
little
bit clunky.
awkward.
Yes, awkward is the word. But yeah, I love this scene. David Harwood's acting is amazing. And so is
Yeah.
Skyler, to be fair. Like, the response that she's giving to David's, what he's putting down is amazing.
She's picking it up. Yeah, this scene really hits. It hits like the scene with Carr with the robber, and it hits, I would argue, kind of like, I guess third behind the scene would be the one between James and Carr really hits.
Hmm.
It's very emotional. And I think it's really nice that this episode had kind of these honestly very important, I think, emotional scenes for all the characters. They everyone all the major characters, I think, had a bit of a moment, or most of them got to be inspiring. I think that was what she said in her scene was, I will inspire you all, kind of like Supergirl made her want to
Hmm. Hmm.
inspire people, was the impression I always got. But this scene, I think, really hits. The actors were just on point. And this whole episode, I have to say, I think it came to me more as we've been talking, is I think Melissa and Kyler both had a very high level of intensity in this episode. And I think it really works because I think both of their plot lines are pretty intense. And I just think they really carried each of their plot lines really well as performers. And I really like to see that. I like to see a show actually utilizing its performers. It's always just very satisfying.
No, my opinion about. I think the Supergirl show had the strongest actors across the board in the Arrowverse.
Absolutely. 1,000,000%.
Not to say that cast overall is 100% perfect, but it got pretty damn close to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
The intensity of this episode is very, very felt. You can feel like the vulnerability that Kara has and feels when she doesn't have powers, and how it immediately changed when she gets them back. Which, speaking of, we got back to Katko. Kara is back to her old self with her powers back, and she has a scene with Winn. And I found this scene outrageous because
Mm.
Kara is the one apologizing to Winn. Winn continues to be
Mm.
an asshole. I'm like,
Yeah. Truly.
and
Truly, he does.
Kara apologizing for it. Like, I'm speechless.
I can't believe they wrote this after it feels so incongruous, I think might be the word I'm thinking of in relation to these other scenes we were just talking about. Like these scenes with him and her feel so incongruous to the whole rest of the episode. Like that's what you got from this win? Like seriously?
Yeah, because the point of the scene is to have Winn remind Kara that James has Lucy, which is unnecessary, first of all. But the way that he says it makes me hate Winn so much, and I don't see it changing
Mhm.
in the few next episodes.
I think, like, I get maybe on one level they're like, we have to remind the audience James is with Lucy because Lucy's not in this episode.
Yeah,
But I'm like, you make Win an ass. Also, what does he think of Kara? That
exactly.
he thinks Kara's forgotten that? Kara's done nothing in the sense that is questionable with James at this point. Absolutely nothing. Like, she's allowed to have a crush, even if this guy's dating someone else. You can't control your emotions in that sense. Yeah, she's going to have to deal with it and work through it, particularly if James and Lucy, stay together. But that's something that's personal to her. It has nothing to do with you, Win. And you have no right to make her feel bad for having fucking feelings. Excuse my language.
That is, I wanted to mention this because, like I was saying earlier, like the only reason that he reacts like this, it has nothing to do with Kara and it has everything to do with the fact that he wants to be the one
I
that
keep forgetting he's a selfish prick. Anyway, sorry.
exactly that he's because you and I rewatch the show frequently,
Hmm.
and the difference between this part of season 1 and what happens in season 3B regarding Win is outstanding. He has no
Hmm.
reaction in season 3 to a very similar situation with Kara's love life,
Hmm.
but because at that point in time Win
Hmm.
has no feelings for her, he doesn't call out what happens in that season.
I would argue it's worse in that season than this
It
one for sure.
it is worse, but it's not
No,
Kara.
no, no. Yeah, that's true. That's
And
true.
he has no interest in Kara, which I think is the
Yeah.
biggest point of it. But alas, that is a conversation from when we
Mm.
get there. One of the final scenes is Kara, a Supergirl, going to talk to Kat, and I found it
I
funny.
love this scene.
I know,
I love
I
this
know.
scene so
This
much. It's
is
so delightful.
it is a delightful scene, but I wanted to mention Kara has a thing for CEOs and balconies. That is all I'm going to say. But it is a nice conversation.
She
Kat
likes flying. Can you knock a girl for enjoying like floating outside balconies? Come on.
she has a nice conversation with Kat. It starts very cordial, and then of course Kat gets into like fighting mode, and she's like, "Where the heck
Hmm.
were you? We had to do this alone." And Supergirl is like, "Yeah, you had to do it alone, and that is why I'm glad that you were at the forefront of it. You gave them hope. That is the thing that I want my legacy to be basically."
Be that beacon of hope, Kara. Give it to other
Exactly.
people. That's who she is. Yeah.
Exactly. It is a very nice conversation. It is that ambivalence with Kat in the fact that you see she wants to do the right thing and be correct, but she's so rash in whatever she does and says that it can be very difficult to sell a character like this. And again, kudos to Callista because she's fantastic in the role.
I love their energy in the scene. I love that Kara says, like, oh, I'm sorry you were scared. And then Kat immediately, all of her hackles on every part of her body go up. She's like, I wasn't scared. We all know she was scared, please. But, Kara lets it go.
Yes.
She's like, okay, you can wear it. But Kara's sitting there kind of smirking inside. She knows it. We all know it.
I mean, Kat is a character that has all of the emotional walls up and is someone who will see being afraid as an emotional failing
Hmm.
on her part. So her reaction is understandable.
Kara sees the truth, though. That's one of Kara's gifts, right?
Absolutely.
She sees people.
But the actual final of the episode is, Kara going flying after talking with Kat.
Can I just say for 1 second, sorry I cut you off, but I love how they shot this particular flying scene. I love that it's at night and we can still see Kara. Can I just say, like in light of how so many things are lit these days,
Yep.
just a gorgeous night flying shot. The music's great here, by the way. I'm gonna start talking about the music more, but the music in this particular little moment is beautiful.
Yeah, and she's flying and she gets attacked by Kryptonians. She doesn't actually recognize them until
Hmm.
Astra shows up. The only thing that we see different in their appearance is that they have a device on their shoulder area that we get no explanation in this episode, but it's basically to combat the effects of kryptonite poisoning. This season is very good at having cliffhangers. Like this episode
Hmm.
simply ends with the Kryptonians
A
like
standoff.
restraining Supergirl, basically. To be fair, we have had like
Hmm.
two
Hmm.
episodes without the Kryptonians at this
Hmm.
point, and they were like literally the last 2 minutes of the episode. So it's been a while since the last time we saw them.
Yeah, this moment, and I think it carries over, and I want to say from my memories, or I mean into the opening of the next episode. But I love all of like Melissa's intensity and expressions in this final scene with Astra. Just also Laura Bernalti just bringing that energy, man. Like she was so good in this part. Just such good acting.
She is fantastic in both roles because at this point she has dual roles as
Hmm.
Allura and Astra. She
Hmm.
is a fantastic antagonist in this part of the
Hmm.
season, I will say. But yes, that is basically the end of the episode. It is a very good episode that sometimes I feel gets overlooked. I was saying last episode that this season felt more character driven than plot driven, but this one felt a little bit more plotty to me. I don't know if you had the same sense because stuff did happen that
Mhm.
was very much character driven with Kara and how she is without her powers, but other plot
Mhm.
stuff is happening, for example, like Alex and Hank and Didio.
Yeah, 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 and I think that's fine. I think it's good to mix that up in a
Yes,
season with episodes,
yes.
and sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need the energy that a well done plot can give a show, and I think this episode does a really good blending of those things. So in that sense, I think it works very well.
Yeah, totally. Maybe this one is a little in the middle of the two
Mm.
because it's starting the plot of the season as a whole. The episode ends with the Kryptonians putting their conquering plan in march. So it's doing a good balance between character and plot. And it's a really good episode. It did have some pace issues for me.
Mhm.
A bit with the max scenes mostly. The direction was a bit
Mhm. Mhm.
clunky as well in some scenes, like the direction with the
I
reveal
think
of
so.
Mansion and Hunter. But otherwise, it's a really good episode.
Yeah, very understandable.
But yes, that is basically what I have for today. I hope you liked the episode. I'm really excited to keep talking about this season with you and sharing it with you guys.
Thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed El Mayara.
El Mayara.